What is the most embarrassing thing your children said out loud in public? Not really embarrassing, but my son once announced to daycare that I had died. It was a severe shock to them when I picked him up. Now my niece once announced at a family dinner that she wanted a fuck, loudly. We all turned and looked at this little 3-year-old, and her mother said she'd work on speech therapy with her as she handed her daughter a fork.
Edit. As it slowly comes back to me, I think he cried too, just to underscore the point. It's been almost 13 years, so the memory is hazy. The staff were very distraught.
In the public restroom, I had my toddler with me in the stall, where she loudly exclaimed, "Wow! That's a really big poop. Good job, Mommy." Edit. Oh geez, is my highest rated comment going to be about my big poop? Four-year-old son was misbehaving in a store, and I told him if he didn't control himself we were going to leave. He escalated, and I picked him up and carried him through the entire store. He was surprisingly putting up little fight. As we passed the checkout lanes, he loudly says, "Hey mister, put me down." I didn't hesitate, didn't make eye contact with anyone, just turned beet red and kept marching out the door. During a private Remembrance Day, Armistice Day, ceremony with veterans, my 3-year-old soiled her diaper. I changed her in a back room, and when we came out, it was the moment of silence. She slammed the door and yelled to all the vets, "I just had a big poop. And it had peanuts in it." My youngest sibling is 10+ years my junior, so I grew up with him embarrassing me in public. The worst was around Christmas one year when we went to Walmart after going to a church service. The service was about the virgin birth and how no other virgin had ever had a baby before. My brother was probably about 4 or 5 at the time, so while he didn't know exactly what made someone a virgin, that service taught him virgins couldn't have babies, and says very loudly, "Look, that lady isn't a virgin." At the grocery store with my boys, 2 and 3. Suddenly, without any context, the 3-year-old broke his silence to scream at the cashier, "Mama's wiener is missing." "Silver? Thank you, kind stranger." I was in Costco and my son, who was about 5 at the time, ran up to me, grabbed my hand and started pulling me towards the next aisle. Dad, look, real ninjas," whilst pointing at 2 women in full burqas. Not me, but my midwife. Pregnant with second child, 3-year-old daughter asks why mommy's belly is so big. She's told there's a baby in there. She turns to daddy and asks, "Do you have a baby in there too?" Dad replies gently, "No, I'm just fat." A few days later in the checkout line, and there's a very large lady behind them in the line. The little girl asks the lady, "Do you have a baby in your tummy like my mommy?" The lady is kind and just says no she doesn't, to which the girl responds, "Oh, just fat then?" My daughter is 16 months. When she is done interacting with someone, she will dismissively wave her hand and say, "All done. Bye." My wife doesn't like it, but I think it's funny and a total power move. So my younger brother was 5-6 years old. My dad was coaching my basketball team, was in 7th grade, and my brother came along to hang out at the practice. Now my brother has Asperger's, so of course at that age social awareness is non-existent. There are a few black kids on the team, and my brother was learning about Martin Luther King Jr. as it was around the time of the holiday. So his brain is processing. During the practice, my brother is standing under the basket as we're doing layup lines. All of a sudden, as one of the black kids goes past him, my brother goes, "Are you an African American?" And my friend chuckles and goes, "Oh, yeah," and my brother with a completely dead serious face and tone just goes, "I knew it." Whole team was rolling on the floor laughing. Edit, Moza. I did not expect all this when I posted this story. I told my parents this, and my dad added, as I had forgotten, that when this happened my dad exclaimed, "Nothing gets past my boy." For those wondering, my brother is now 23, accepting of all races, and also writes and plays for a pretty awesome band. And thank you anonymous Redditors for the silver and gold. My first gold. What a time to be alive. My wife had my 3-year-old at the park one day. She decided to pick up some litter to make the park look nicer, so she was throwing away pop bottles, chip bags, etc., and he wanted to help. He stoops to pick up some cigarette butts, and my wife says, "Leave those to mommy." She wasn't going to pick them up but didn't want him to touch them either. A few minutes later he has gone to play. He tells another mom, "I'm finding cigarettes for mommy." My wife was so embarrassed and said she got the dirtiest looks from nearby parents who heard this. I was in Target with my 4-year-old boy twins. One has a nervous habit of grabbing his parts. I quietly said to him, "Let go, hands off dude," and he yells at the top of his lungs, "But mama, my penis won't go down." I don't think I've ever left Target so fast. At a fairly nice restaurant, my brother was teasing my daughter, and my daughter screamed at him to stop and threatened to call him the N-word. The N-word was nipple. My son was 2 and thought every black man was his dad. He was away for the military a while, so when we were at Boston Market he called another random stranger daddy, and ran to him and hugged him. Haha, the guy actually picked him up and said, "I'm not your dad, but hey buddy." I was mortified but couldn't stop laughing. When he was being humped by a puppy, and me yelling at the puppy to stop. "Don't yell at him. He loves me." I guess he's not wrong. I have a story about my sister. This happened back in the 70s and she was about 3 years old. My mom tells this story all the time. She and my mom were in a very long line for the restroom. There was a lady a few people in front of them who was over 300 pounds. My sister yells, "Mom, isn't that the fattest lady you've ever seen?" Other people in line were doing their best not to laugh, and my mom is horribly embarrassed. And then my sister looks at her and asks, "Isn't she the fattest lady you've ever seen?" My mom had enough and took my sister out of the line and walked away. My friend's daughter, still at 2.5 years/old, saw another kid in the grocery store with a toy truck, and out of nowhere says, "I want that fucking truck," in an angry tone. Not the funniest thing to read, I know, but we've been saying that in a baby voice for the last few years and it always cracks us up. When I was little, under 5, My dad would jokingly ask if I wanted a cold beer. I would always respond with no. Until one day when we were in the grocery store, he asked if I wanted anything, to which I replied, a cold beer, while we were standing in line.